So let's break this third phrase of the poem Ayodhyavasi Rām down. The line is Patita-Pāvana, and you can hear this term Pati within it. I feel it's important to deliberate on this word, draw out some meaning and apply some understanding into our lives. Now, the syllable Pa means to protect, but especially to protect from above, like a parent descending to protect their child from danger. Pati therefore gives us a sense of shelter, like a roof. It also is meant to evoke a feeling of abundance from above also, like the sunshine or the rains for the grains that nourish us. Traditionally, Pati signifies a father-like figure or a caring, masculine type of energy, which we all have irrespective of gender. Many of us are likely to be Pati to some degree or another. We might be a parent, have a pet, be a manager in a workplace, and so on. We can say that anyone who protects or provides in some capacity is a Pati to that extent. On a more grand scale, Pati appears in the term Prajapati, which means protector of the people, or protector of the Praja, because Praja means progeny in English. Now, we can only protect when we have some capacity to protect. So developing a decent level of prowess, position or skill, we can say Shakti, is a necessary part of life. This way we go from a feeling of futility to utility. And utility is this feeling of being useful. It helps our sense of self, our purpose, our self-esteem, and our sense of worth in the world. Now here's where we come to a point of tension, because masculinity can be exploited. We can have hypermasculinity, toxic masculinity, male chauvinism, and more. So how do we ensure our status as Pati is not exploited? How do we ensure we act with dignity, integrity, and professionalism, like a good sportsperson who is gracious in both victory and defeat? Essentially, it's how we respond to these abilities that is important, hence the term responsibility. One way this position of Pati can be spoiled is by the development of a superiority complex. This can happen by a simple misinterpretation. For example, Prajapati is similar to the Latin word domus, which means the person who's in charge. And you can hear domus in words like dominion, domination, dominance. Feeling more important than those we have some sort of command over leads to further exploitation. We might assume that those we see as inferior to us can be simply discarded or used or abused. And with these thoughts, we move deeper into the darkness of toxic masculinity. For example, our children in some way are inferior to us, but in many ways they are more important than us. We fall into this toxic masculinity, this exploitation of Pati, with this growing of self-importance. Just because we are superior to someone in some way does not give us a free ticket to dominate them or exploit them. This is a malevolent misuse of the position of Pati, which leads to exploitation and abuse, which normally starts with some sort of coercive control or a demand for obedience. But we can see that the era of arbitrary authority is dwindling now, and people in power are required to prove their worth. The 16th century godfather of European education, Comenius, summed it up nicely when he said, "To give someone power without training them in morals is like putting a sword into the hands of a madman." So Rām, in this mood or this tone of Pati, Patita-Pāvana, is an emblem of good leadership, which is about protecting the people and not exploiting them for self-gain and enjoyment. There is a need for leaders to temper their power with compassion, the moral of all morals. The antidote to toxic masculinity is not to abandon masculinity entirely, but to become a steward of power instead of exploitative manipulation of any given hierarchy. Healthy masculinity is a calling to be extremely powerful whilst simultaneously being even more self-controlled. The last word in the phrase is Pāvana, which means the most susceptible of society. These include children, vulnerable adults, the elderly, and those who might be struggling with unsavory habits that are unfortunately degrading their existence. This may include people dealing with trauma or those with dysfunctional addictions. So many of us are vulnerable or degraded to one degree or another. So Patita-Pāvana means that leader whose compassion extends to the most needy, the most vulnerable. And my hope, therefore, is that Ayodhya can become an emblem for this mood of Rām as Patita-Pāvana, the protector of and provider for the most needy. Let us exist in bliss ink stains for your brain.